looking at page 27, direct and indirect objects. Now, if you were in 6th grade here last year, I'm sure you did direct and indirect objects, and maybe even in whatever program you did at home, you probably did those as well. And I just like to actually start off introducing them, and then I go back and look at the definitions. So, this is my favorite sentence. Mom baked, Dad baked cake. Okay. And it's my favorite sentence because I use it with all the grades that I do. And then we start adding and making it a little bit more complicated. Yes? Page 27. And we learned about subjects and predicates the other day, so we did our little lines, and we know that the subject goes here, the predicate goes here, right? Okay. So in this sentence, Mom baked Dad a cake, what is our action? What is the action? Baked. So we find the verb first, and there we go. And so we know that's going to go right here. Then we asked another question. Who baked? And who can we say baked? Who baked it? Mom. So we're going to put Mom here. Mom baked. We know that's the skeleton. Well, now we're going to get a little bit further into the sentence. And we're going to ask another question. This is another one of my favorite questions. We're going to ask, Mom baked what? And what is the answer? She baked a cake. Now, you certainly could have answered, Mom baked Dad. Now, that wouldn't be very nice if Mom baked Dad. I hope she wouldn't do that. So hopefully, but just you gotta think, the English language, if you identify the wrong thing, and let's say someday down the road you're in a grammar bee, and you're up there and they give you this sentence, Mom baked Dad a cake. And it's the big moment. You could win with the right answer to this. And the judge says, okay, the subject is Mom and baked is the verb. Now, what is the direct object? And if you get this answer right, you're going to win like $1 million. And you stand up and you say, Mom baked Dad! Mom baked Dad! And it's the wrong answer. Because Dad is not the direct object. Cake is. You got to be careful what Mom is baking. Okay? Now, on our little skeleton thingy-majigger here, what we want to do is we draw a line that comes down to that first line that we have. So now I'm going to show you how to diagram this. So you better take notes or make sure you're looking at it in your book. Because when you get home to do homework, you need to know where the direct object goes. This is our subject. That's our direct object. So Mom baked cake is what we want to go here. And here's the question you have to be able to answer. Mom baked what? Mom baked a cake. And it could be who or what. You could have a person that shows up as a direct object, but most of the time it's an object or a noun. So, Mom baked what? Mom baked cake. Now, a sheet of paper. You should write on a sheet of paper. Now, often there is a person who is the recipient of the cake that Mom is baking. And that recipient is known as the indirect object. Who got the cake? Dad got the cake. He's not what was baked, but he did get the cake. And here's how we show that indirect object. So we know that Dad gets the cake that Mom baked. Okay, so this is my personal fun favorite sentence. It'll show up all year. So if I'm trying to show you Or if I want us to elaborate on a sentence, a lot of times I'll pull this out and we'll add words to it. We'll say stuff like, Mom quickly baked Dad an amazing yellow cake with buttery cream frosting. Doesn't it sound really good right about now? I had no dessert in my lunch, so it definitely sounds good. Sorry, my nose just keeps itching. I guess somebody's, let me say, if your nose keeps itching, somebody's talking about you. I don't know what, that old wives' tale, your nose is itching. Anyway, my nose keeps itching. All right, so these are the direct object and the indirect object. That's how you diagram them, and this is how you answer the questions. Now, the question to find out about the indirect object is, Mom baked who the cake? Mom baked who or what the cake? So you still have to answer those questions as well. So let's go back to the gray box now on page 27 and get the correct definitions. I've shown you what they are, but let's get the definitions. So direct object is a noun. Now what else can be a noun in our sentences? What else can be a noun? A pronoun could be. What other sentence jobs might a noun do? We know it can be a direct object. Nouns can be a direct. Remember, did I do this with you on the video, or did I do it in class where I talked about your mom and all the different jobs she does? Was that on the video? Even though it was kind of weird. Who knows why it was doing that? So your mom is all kinds of different things, and nouns can do all different kinds of things. And so we know nouns can be the subject. They could be a pronoun could be jumping in. It could be the indirect object. It could be the direct object. So we've got nouns popping up doing something again. So the noun or pronoun completes a sentence skeleton by receiving the action. Mom baked what? Mom baked the cake. The action is the baking of the cake. The indirect object is a noun or pronoun that helps to complete a sentence skeleton by telling to whom or what, or for whom or what an action is being performed. Who was the recipient of the action? Who got the cake? Dad. Now, do you think Dad shared it with anybody? Yeah. Maybe Dad shared it. We'll see. These are called object compliments, and it's not a compliment like me walking up and saying, "Oh, your mask is so pretty." That's a compliment. That's how people pay compliments these days, talking about each other's masks. Object compliments they complete the sentence. Notice that the word complete is in there. Okay, let's do a little bit of practice with them. And let me just check something. Oops. Now what I like to do is after I teach the lesson, I like to do the class practice. And so we're going to do those. Before I do that, I want to show you how to do a compound direct object. Okay. So turn to page 28 in your book. And there's a couple there that show how do you get the compound direct objects in there. So I want you to look right in the middle of the page. And it says, Rebecca writes good stories and poems. And so to diagram that, who writes good stories and poems? Rebecca. Mr. Morgan, what does Rebecca do? Writes. And then what does she write? Stories and poems. So now I need to do my little pencil point thingy. And there's how I show my direct object when it's a compound direct object. So I can answer the what question twice. Rebecca writes what? She writes stories and poems. So I need to show both of them. And then there's some other examples here. Here's one with a triple. Father wants Jerry, Joseph, and Jordan at the barn. So we can show Father wants what or who, Jerry, Joseph, and Jordan. So you see it in your book, how they put all of that. Now, the English language is not easy, and so we often see things get a little more complicated. So let me show you. If you look at the very bottom, we have two different verbs with two different direct objects, okay? And the sentence is, Jesus loves righteousness and hates iniquity. So what's our subject? Jesus. Jesus what? What's the action? Loves and hates. So when I have two verbs and two direct objects, I have to do this. I'm going to go ahead right here, subject, but then my verb split. It's going to come out like this. And so the first thing was loves, right? Loves righteousness. Is that what it was? Yes. Righteousness. And the second thing is that he hates, what is it that he hates? Iniquity. This is where it gets a little tricky in the English language. We have got two verbs with two direct objects. So you need to make sure that you put both of them on their own line. Loves what? Hates what? And that's an example straight from the book. So you can take a look at that if you get confused. Now, one point that I do want to make about these sentences, because later on in the year, we're going to have another type of word that comes after linking verbs, and you need to know the difference. These direct objects and indirect objects come after what are called transitive verbs. So I want you to remember that word, transitive. These are verbs that you can see in your head. You can see a horse gallop. The horse gallops. You can see somebody run. John runs. You can see somebody eating. You can see mom baking, right? In the kitchen, starting the KitchenAid. So we know that those are things that we can see in our head. Later on, I'm going to introduce you to verbs that you really can't see in your head, and that's going to be a different kind of word then coming after the verb. So I wanted to clarify that you do have those transitive verbs. Now, let's hop over to page 30. We're going to try some class practice, and then I'll let you take a little break. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get a little break before we come back from writing, or for writing. All right, now remember, as we go through these, look for compounds. Look for two verbs or two direct objects. Okay, so number one, the rain was falling in torrents. Now what we want to do there is, first of all, we want to find the subject and the verb. So who wants, okay, tell me what the subject and the verb is. Was falling. Yeah, so both of those. Now, is there a what question? Can I say the rain was falling what? Yeah, it doesn't really answer like when mom bakes dad a cake, there's a clear what. So there is no direct object here. Father eyed the swollen creek soberly. What's the subject and the verb? How about somebody else? Yes. Father eyed. Now can I say the father eyed what? And what's the answer? Creek. So I can answer that what question. All right, the creek was now a raging river. What's the subject and verb? Creek was what? Creek was what? Yeah, there's no direct object. There is, river comes after that, but because of that linking verb, the word was, is, are, am, be, being, been, those indicate something else that we haven't learned yet. There's no direct object that's going to come after those. So just remember that. We committed our lives and our farm to the Lord. So what's the subject, first of all? We. Now it looks like we have a couple of direct objects and one verb. So who wants to tell me what those are? Committed is the verb. Committed what? Lives. And farm. Good. So he recognized there's two there, so you would want to make sure if you have to diagram those that you put them on the correct lines. And how about one more? God promises wisdom and gives grace for trying times. Go ahead, Denai. God is the subject, promises is the verb, wisdom and grace are the direct objects. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Oh, yes. So it's promises wisdom, promises what? And then gives what? Gives grace. So yes. So you would do it like this, where you have each of the verbs in their direct object. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah. We are on page 30. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you take your little break, because you guys are looking like you're melting a little bit. I'm going to put a couple sentences on the board, and when we come back, I'm going to see what you know. So you can go ahead and take your little mask break, make sure you take your water out with you, and then we'll come back and do some sentences.